remember doing that, and we were leading on that as always, and leading on a whole host of other things involving education. And we're happy to be here in Jacksonville to be able to highlight these milestones and renew our commitment to continue going in a really strong direction in the future. We are joined today by our Commissioner of Education, Manny Diaz. We have the head of school here at Trinity Christian Academy, David Welling. We also have Harley McCullough as the mother of one of our scholarship recipients, and she's going to talk about her experience. Aiden O'Brien is a student who's also receiving one of our school choice scholarships. We have Representatives Duggan and Michael. I don't know if Senator Yarborough's here yet. I think he's on his way, so he'll be here shortly, so we look forward to welcoming them, and we thank the legislators for supporting these great education reforms. We've got a lot that we're going to be doing in the next couple months, and I'll be having some announcements on some of that very shortly as well. So Florida, for the last 2 years, has been ranked #1 for education. We've also been ranked for many years #1 for public higher education, and part of the reason we have that is because we have not, since I've been governor, raised tuition 1 penny for our students. And so you're going to University of Florida. Honestly, it's hard to get in there. You know, it used to not be the case, so you go back 30, 40 years, but very competitive. But you get in, and the tuition's like $6,300 in state. And oh, by the way, most people that get into Florida likely have high enough SAT scores that they qualify for Bright Futures, and so they pay nothing, or they pay 75 or 25% of the tuition, depending on where they are on that. And so there's no other state in the country that's delivering that type of value where you can go and get a really good 4-year degree without really going 1 penny in debt. And that's something that's really, really meaningful. We're also proud to be really the first state to say, you know, these universities are, especially the public universities, they're created and supported by the taxpayers to serve the interests of the people of the state of Florida. Not to pursue their own indoctrination agenda, but to actually support the classical mission of what a university should be, pursuing truth, teaching students how to think for themselves, and preparing our students to be citizens of this republic. And we've led the way on that. And we are continuing to make really, really great strides. Now on K-12 education, we're #1 in parental power for 3 years in a row, #1 in education freedom by the Heritage Foundation. And what does that mean? I mean, first of all, I think that's good that you're empowering people to be able to make their own choices. But just yesterday, we were able to announce that our most recent graduation rate, 89.7%, is the highest in the history of the state of Florida. And so that's proof's in the pudding, right? We are the leader in this country in so many different things. I mean, higher ed, we've talked about. You know, you look at these things now, you're seeing these reports about, you know, BlackRock is getting out of ESG, the Wall Street banks are getting out of ESG. You know, that ESG was raging until Florida stepped in and said no. We killed ESG in Florida, and because we killed it, it's withering on the vine nationally. And so we were happy to lead the effort on that. We're happy to lead the effort on parents' rights, to make sure that parents knew what was being taught in their kids' schools, and that what was being taught was consistent with Florida standards, not trying to jam sexual indoctrination into these elementary schools. How ridiculous is that? And so we had to lead on that. We even had to go toe-to-toe with a pretty big company in Florida not too long ago. Many of you remember that, but that's what you just have to do, right? So we've led on illegal immigration, and Cayenne has been a big part of supporting what we've done. You know, their report, you know, the the amount of money that's being spent on health care for people showing up to hospitals has declined dramatically for illegals because we enacted very tough reforms. Now, we're going to do a lot more starting January 20th because you'll actually have the federal government committed to removing people who are here illegally, and we're going to work with the legislature to make sure Florida's prepared to be able to lead the way in that as well. So on all these different things, we're happy to lead the way. But clearly in school choice, we are second to none when it comes to empowering parents to make these great decisions for their students and their kids. And you know, the thing about it is people, this was kind of a debate in the country for the last several decades about, you know, whether you could actually empower parents and can parents make these choices, or was education just supposed to be one monopoly where, you know, you're born someplace, you're growing up someplace, and that's the school you go to, even if that's not the best school for you, even if your parents would want you to go somewhere else. And so Florida has really tested it over a number of years, but it wasn't really until the last 5 or 6 years that we made this a full spectrum commitment to say that the money that we dedicate, and we dedicate a lot of money in Florida. We're record spending in terms of what we're dedicating to K-12 education. Now, per pupil is less than like Washington, D.C. or all those, but their results in Washington, D.C. are a hell of a lot worse than ours. So where's that money going? So we said, you know, the money that they're there, should it follow the student, or should it be dedicated to serving the interests of the bureaucracy and these institutions? And it should follow the student. I mean, that really is the way that you have success. So that's what we've been doing. People have the ability to make choices, and the results are that people are very satisfied for what's been going on. Now, we've had different iterations of school choice. We had a little bit for many years, about 100,000. We started doing the unique abilities. We had some charter stuff. But really it was a couple years ago when we signed HB 1 that made this universal to where every Florida student had the ability to access resources to be able to go to the school of their choice. And it has been utilized by parents across the state in dramatic numbers. So where are we? Right now in the state of Florida, we have over 500,000 students on our scholarship programs, and that is more than anywhere else. In fact, I think it's the case that the state, if you look at all school choice in the entire United States for scholarships, Florida represents about a third of all scholarship recipients in the entire United States of America. So that's a huge, huge thing that we've been able to do. And that's, you know, here at Trinity, that's one way, and this is important. And we think that those schools that receive the scholarships, you know, it's interesting, there's some schools that won't take the scholarships, but I think most schools do, and that's important. But we also have choice options in the public education sphere. And so we have charter schools, which are public schools, but they're not captive to the districts and, more importantly, the school unions, which have been so destructive in terms of what they've done to education in this country. So we have more than 400,000 students in charter schools throughout. And I know we've got some good ones in Jacksonville, classical, that we've gone and done events at. There's others in South Florida that have done really, really well. Some of the best schools in the country are charter schools in Florida. So right there's close to 1 million students just in the charter and in the private spheres, which is really, really, and that in and of itself, that's more students than probably the majority of states have in their entire states in K through 12. So this is a big undertaking. But here's the thing. If you look at our charter population, we have English language arts, math, and civics. More charter students are testing at grade level than what would be in the traditional school districts. That's true for ELA, math, and civics, pretty significant spreads in some of those. And the charter population disproportionately low income, disproportionately racial and ethnic minorities. Those are, we have some school districts and some public schools that are in very affluent areas, right? And they're expected to do so much better. And yet, our charter programs, if you just took our charter population and that was its own state, those 400,000 students, it'd be one of the top 10 performing states in the United States of America just in our charter population. We also have more than 155,000 homeschool students in the state of Florida. So if you combine all of this, private scholarship, charter, homeschool, and then the choice programs which school districts have launched to where you can go to different schools within your district, not necessarily where you're traditionally zoned for. Now, we got close to 1.5 million students in various choice programs throughout Florida. And when I took office in 2019, we had 100,000 students on scholarship, and we had about 300,000 in charter schools. And so this has been a dramatic increase that we've been able to see. We've also expanded opportunities for VPK students who struggle with early literacy and early math skills, allowing them to access tutoring, curriculum, and supplemental support earlier in the child's life, similar to how struggling students in kindergarten through third grade are identified. And our third grade reading and math was, I think we were in the top 5 in third grade reading. It's important to do that. We got to continue that going on through high school, and that's kind of the next challenge. But we recognize the detriment a student faces if they're not reading at grade level by the third grade. And we want to make sure that we're doing that. So to date, over 300,000 students in grades VPK through 5 have taken advantage of the expansion that Florida has provided. We also provide a transportation stipend for students to commute to school outside of their school zone up to $750. So 18,000 students are currently benefiting from this opportunity, which also helps provide peace of mind to parents who may not live in their desired school district. So this is something that has been very significant. The results have been incredibly positive for this state and for families and for students, and we want to make sure that we continue the momentum going forward. Now, you're going to hear a lot of different stuff about what the Congress may be doing up in Washington, D.C., and I would never bet on them doing like great things, but the reality is they have an opportunity here, so we hope that they will consider looking at Florida's model for education choice and applying that nationally, which can be done. And you don't need the Department of Education for this. You can do it through a tax credit program, through the tax code and through the Treasury Department, and can even pass it with budget reconciliation in the U.S. Senate. And the reality is in an ideal world, you would never even need to go to Washington to do any of this stuff. But if you look at some of these places like Chicago, you look at some of these places like L.A., the reality is the school unions control education in those areas, and they own the schools and the politicians lock, stock, and barrel. So you are never going to see any type of choice through local or state legislation in those areas because they basically control the political process. Now, that's not true in Florida. We beat the unions on COVID when they wanted schools to be closed for the year. We beat the unions when we passed our Family Empowerment Scholarship in 2019. We beat the unions in 23 when we passed the universal choice. And we've now empowered teachers with paycheck protection, so there's no automatic deduction of school union dues allowed in the state of Florida. If you want to join, you can write a check and send it, but we're not going to have the government facilitating joining organizations which have a partisan left agenda and put their interests ahead of the interests of students. But that's not true in many parts of this country. So the Congress has an opportunity, I think, to make a difference. The debate about school choice, I think, is over. Clearly, you're better offering choice than not offering choice. And if you look at some of these places like Chicago, could you do any worse than what they're doing? I mean, why the hell not try something, right? I mean, come on. It's just ridiculous. So I hope that they're looking to do that. I think it's something that can be really, really significant. Now, it's interesting because people used to criticize school choice, saying that oh, well, the money should go to the traditional public school bureaucracies. But in Florida, since we've had this choice revolution since I've been governor, we've increased significantly salaries for public school teachers, charter and district teachers. Billions of dollars we've put into that, and the per pupil money in the school districts is the highest it's ever been per capita in the state of Florida's history. So the results speak for itself on that too. It's a false choice to say if you have choice that somehow you're going to be starving programs of funding. I mean, you have good performing schools, parents are going to flock there, and they are going to be funded, and they're going to be doing very well. So that debate on that is over, and I think it's important that we recognize that. So we're coming up on the next legislative session. We need, there'll be some things that you got to do to tweak this or that, but I think we can look back over the last 6 years and say what's been done in Florida has had huge life-changing effects in a positive way on so many families throughout the state of Florida. And that's ultimately what it's all about. I mean, why are you getting elected to the legislature? Why are you getting elected to governor? You're either doing it to improve things or you're not. And we've really worked hard to improve opportunities for families. And so some of it is families that are poor. That's always been the focus. But honestly, you got a lot of families where you have two parents that are working and they're successful, but things are just so expensive they still couldn't afford tuition if that's something they want to do. And so now they're able to take the money that follows their child and send it to the school of their choice. So that's been a win-win for so many people. And I'm really excited that we're here to be able to commemorate 500,000 students that are on these school choice scholarships. It is changing lives in a positive way, and I look forward to continue to be able to do that going forward. Now, we're here joined by some other folks who are going to have a few things to say, so I'm going to call them up now, and we'll start with Commissioner of Education, Manny Diaz.
Thank you, Governor. It's great to be here in Jacksonville at Trinity. And I just want to thank you for your leadership on this, but I want to go deeper into the story that gets us here in Florida leading in educational freedom, because I have the opportunity to travel the country and interact with my colleagues that are state chiefs in other states who are always now trying to mimic what we're doing in Florida. But as you heard the governor say, the volume and the number of students that are affected here in Florida is increasing every year, and now we're at a point where we have clearly the largest program in the country by leaps and bounds, but that didn't happen by accident. You heard the governor say we're ranked #1 in education by U.S. News and World Report for 2 years in a row, and educational freedom by the Heritage Foundation for 3 years in a row, along with the Parent Power Index with the Center for Educational Reform. But that happens in the period of time that Governor DeSantis is in office. I had the fortune to be in the legislature since 2012, and we had always been looked at as a leader, but we were chipping away and doing little things to move the ball down the field. And I can tell you, it was that moment when Governor DeSantis came into office, and right off the bat, he said, we're just going to blow this open, where we were able to create the Family Empowerment Scholarship with his leadership. Him signing that bill started us down the path where we are right now. And that's a direct result of his leadership and being bold and saying we're not going to listen to the outside noise, and we're going to go forward and we're going to create a program that's going to help students and families. He mentioned over 500,000 students. The number is 524,000 students that have been approved for the Family Empowerment Scholarship, the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship, and the Personalized Education Option, which if those students were a district, as you heard the governor say, it would be top 3 largest school districts in the country. But the difference is that these programs don't lock students into a one-size-fits-all, including the fact that we've increased our Student with Unique Abilities program by 75% since 2022. You heard the governor mention charter schools. We have over 700 schools in this state with over 400,000 students, which would also be in the top 3 if it was a district. For comparison, the charter school students, the total number would be larger than the number of students in the state of New Mexico as a whole. So that's just to give you a perspective. So you're just talking about charter. Obviously, the scholarship students would meet that too. If you put those two together, which doesn't really compile our complete portfolio of choice, it's almost 1 million students here in the state of Florida that are able to take advantage of this, along with the transportation scholarships, along with the other scholarships and the programs that districts have done, whether it be IB or ACE, and having 30,000 students with substantial deficiencies in reading or math receiving the scholarship to participate in the New World Scholarship Program, which provides tutoring and extra help after school. So these are students that could be sitting at a public school that are receiving this option. It's more important than just a physical location. Choice is about the ability for parents to cater the education, and that is highlighted in the 60,000 students that take advantage of the homeschool program and the PEP program. All of this leads us to debunk all the criticisms that we heard, because as the governor mentioned, everybody wants to criticize, says you're funneling money, you're not doing this, or schools are not getting better. Well, the governor mentioned that we have the highest graduation rate in the history of the state. That's 89.7%, and that has happened because despite the fact that we have had people that have wanted to lower the bar because they felt like students couldn't make it, so we should lower the bar, under Governor DeSantis' leadership, we took the opposite approach. We raised the bar and the expectations, and our students are very resilient and have met us there. In going into those results, it's not just the 89.7%, which is a 1.7% increase, but when you look at African American students in the state, they rose by 2.1%, Hispanics by 2.2%, and economically disadvantaged students rose by 2.4% year over year in our graduation rate. That is an incredible jump because our governor and our legislature have been bold in saying we're going to maintain accountability, and at the same time, we're going to remove all of this nonsense from our schools where our students are not distracted with any gender ideology or CRT or anything else. And we're going to provide parents not only transparency, but the option to choose what school they go to, what program fits individual students. You could have a family of 4 where you have four different students attending 4 different settings, one in a private school, one at a charter school, one virtual, one in a neighborhood traditional public school. So that is important, and we need to continue to our commitment to that. And what better leader to have in charge than Governor DeSantis, who clearly is not only leading the state, but leading the nation, and Florida is a shining star in educational freedom. Thank you very much, Governor.
Hey, good morning and welcome to our gym. You know, this is a kind of a bait and switch moment for me. They told me this was a gym fundraiser. You could... Welcome to Trinity Christian Academy. I am David Welling. I'm the head of the school here. Trinity Christian Academy has been educating children and students here in Duval County since 1967. And never in the decades that we've been open have we had a governor who is more committed to students than Governor Ron DeSantis. I want to thank Governor DeSantis and Commissioner Manny Diaz for their steadfast support for our students and for the education in our state. Through HB 1 and the expansion of school choice, the governor has provided a monumental amount of support for the majority of students who attend this school. We're so thankful and grateful for the freedoms and opportunities you are standing for here in this great state of Florida. Thank you, Governor. We are thrilled to be supported by an ever-improving Step-Up program, and many of their representatives are here today. They've been supportive in countless ways. Thank you for your support. Today, TCA especially celebrates the increased ability for families to align their educational goals with their personal or faith-based values. And I pondered for a minute, what if they did not get this opportunity? They would miss being a part of an academic program that sends over 90% of our students to the university of their choice, with seniors earning over $1.6 million in scholarships per year. Over 1,400 students have taken part in dual enrollment over the time that we've had it, with over 185 receiving their AA degree while here in high school. That is worth celebrating. And these opportunities only increase because of school choice. 80% of our students participate in the arts. 60% of our students are involved in athletics. We've accumulated over 16 state championships and have 27 athletes that are playing professionally. I think we would all agree that the family and the emerging generation is the most significant building block of our society. We're here to prepare them for their future, not our past. The students that have been given the opportunity to experience Trinity have caring teachers who love God, they're passionate about their subject areas, and they love students. They're prayed for. They're taught a worldview that has an eternal perspective. They're prepared and equipped to navigate a world that needs their stability, needs their confidence, wisdom, and expertise. Trinity Christian is proud to participate in these programs. Just for the last 3 years, as had been mentioned before, we've gone from just over 70%, and then in 2023-24 to 90%, and this current year, out of our over 1,600 students here, 98% of our K through 12 enrollment attend on a Step Up for Students administered scholarship. That's incredible. What an opportunity these students have had. It's certainly clear that these scholarships have empowered our families with greater access and increased opportunity to send their children to a school that matches their needs, aligns with their values and interests. This morning, we're grateful to be a part of this celebration of choice. Again, on behalf of Trinity Christian Academy and the other Trinity ministries, I want to thank the Governor and the Commissioner for their commitment to school choice and providing these opportunities for our students. Thank you.
Harley?
Before I get started, I would like to introduce somebody very special to you guys. You've probably heard him stimming back there and walking around, and you probably even heard some Elvis music playing, because that's what we do in our house. So I would like to introduce you guys to my son, Thorn McCullough. Thorn is being led today by some team members at his school, Miss Sarah and Miss Lydia. Thorn, can you wave hey to everybody? We're working on waving hi. Wave hi, Thorn. Wave hi. Hey, buddy. Thank you all for welcoming him. Victories, gratitude, opportunity. These are just a few words that come to my mind as I stand before you today. You see, in my house, we celebrate small victories like the joyful sound of our harmonica being blown into, putting on our own socks, and signing bathroom to go potty. These small and simple tasks may get overlooked in a neurotypical home, but not in my home. These are just a few skills that my son Thorn was not able to perform until he was led to some amazing people. Good morning. My name is Harley McCullough, and I am from McClenny, Florida. I am a guidance counselor in our local public school, and as a guidance counselor, I manage IEPs and advocate for children with exceptionalities. The most important role I have is being a mother to my son, Thorn Athens McCullough. Thorn was diagnosed with profound nonverbal autism at just the age of 3 years old. Thorn attended pre-K3, pre-K4, and kindergarten at our local school district. Unfortunately, Thorn was not progressing and making the gains that he needed to make. He could not sit still for more than 10 seconds, he couldn't respond to his own name, and he was failing his classwork. I knew that Thorn needed more. He needed more specialized services. He needed ABA therapy. He needed speech and occupational therapy. And we found a school that would offer those services to Thorn. Jacksonville School for Autism was perfect for him. Unfortunately, as a single mom, I could not afford the school's tuition. Then I found out about the Family Empowerment Unique Ability Scholarship. The scholarship allowed us to enroll Thorne, and he has been attending JSA for nearly 2 years, and I'm happy to report that he is truly thriving. I used to get calls to pick Thorne up from school due to behavioral issues, but since he's been at JSA, I don't have to worry about getting those calls, as they are equipped to handle all of his special needs. With the help of the Unique Ability Scholarship, I would not be celebrating my son's victories today without it. JSA has given Thorne a voice by implementing the PECS program and consistently teaching him how to use his device to express his wants and needs. This year, Thorne will be turning 8 years old, and he'll finally be able to blow out his own birthday candles thanks to the help of his speech therapist. In my position at the public school, I have the unique perspective of witnessing the magic that our public schools are doing in the state of Florida. I believe in our incredible school system. I also see that some students require more than what is available in that setting. I prayed long and hard about speaking here today. As you can tell, I am certainly no public speaker, but I really believe that God has led me here for a reason. To let families know, like mine, you're not alone, and there are choices out there to help meet every child's needs. There will never be enough words to truly thank the scholarship funding organization, lawmakers, Commissioner Diaz, Governor DeSantis, for giving my son an opportunity to learn the foundational skills that he needs to function more independently. Thank you all. Thank you.
Before I begin, I would just like to thank Governor DeSantis and Commissioner Diaz for allowing me to speak here today. Most importantly, I want to thank God for putting my life on a path to be able to talk to all of you here today about school choice and my experience with it. Hello, my name is Aiden O'Brien, and I am a senior here at Trinity Christian Academy. I've been lucky enough to attend school here for the past 4 years. I can confidently say that it has changed my life. I had a great experience at my old public school up until 5th grade. Unfortunately, life took an unexpected turn when my mom and I had to move, and I was enrolled in a new school. My time in this new environment was tough, particularly during 6th and 7th grade, when I became the target of relentless bullying, and it felt like every day was harder than the last. During that period, I experienced thoughts and emotions that were deeply damaging to my mental and physical health. The bullying, combined with other challenges, took a serious toll on me. As someone who was new to the school, the bullying only intensified and my mental health deteriorated as a result. Then, one evening, my mom had come home from work. She had just learned about another incident that had happened to me at school. That's when she made a decision I will never forget. She told me I would never go back to that school. She applied for the Florida Education Choice Scholarship, which allowed me the opportunity to attend Trinity Christian Academy. Just a few weeks after enrolling, I enjoyed Trinity's Performing Arts program, and it didn't take long for me to fall in love with the theater department. I can honestly say that theater has saved my life. It gave me a sense of purpose, a community, and a place where I truly felt like I belonged. Beyond theater, I became deeply involved in Trinity student leadership with Lit, as well as the chapel and Vive bands. I was even honored to be nominated for homecoming court by my peers, an experience that meant so much to me. I've been taking dual enrollment classes and have early enlisted into the U.S. Army. 2 weeks after graduation, I will be shipping off to boot camp, and I will also be taking college classes while serving. I truly believe I wouldn't be the person I am today without coming to Trinity and meeting the incredible people here. One person I'd like to thank is retired Colonel Martin Hersey, who not only served as the vice principal of TCA, but has also been an invaluable role model in my both journey toward the military and my love for theater. I would also like to acknowledge my former theater director, Dharma Leon, whose guidance was one of the main reasons I fell in love with the art. None of this would have been possible without the Florida Choice Scholarship. So I want to extend my deepest thanks to Governor DeSantis and Commissioner Diaz for supporting families and providing access to educational opportunities that truly change lives.
All right. Well, best of luck in the Army. We watch Navy make quick work of Army and the Army Navy, but that's okay. You know, it is what it is. It's Navy guys got to take it whatever we can get. So I think we can sit up here and talk about, oh, we're rank 1 for education freedom, we're this, we're that, and that's not nothing. I mean, it is. It's important, but you hear from the horse's mouth of how these programs affect, and so you were able to hear from students and parents that these things really make a difference, and that's what it's all about. So we appreciate what people are doing up here in Northeast Florida, but really throughout the state of Florida. You've got a lot of great innovators out there, and they're serving students and families in a way that I think is unmatched throughout this country. So thank you on behalf of the state, and we'll keep striving to do even better. Okay, do we got any questions back there? I can't really see. Yes, sir. So you can talk to the Division of Emergency Management about what exactly they're doing. Basically, I told the division, as soon as this happened, help them. So they don't need my approval to do it at this point. If there's a request comes in, they will do it, and that's probably ongoing. So I would just refer you to them. Yes? Oh, I haven't thought about that at all. What are you talking about? Well, what I said from the very beginning is what we're going to do. We're going to appoint somebody. We just had a presidential election. We're going to appoint somebody that's going to help deliver President Trump the mandate that he was given by voters to enact reforms. And that's something that a senator's got to be willing and able to do. I also particularly want a senator who's going to be very strong on the issue of immigration. Our immigration's totally out of control in this country, and it's not just people pouring over the border. It's these ridiculous visa programs like the diversity lottery and bringing in H-1Bs to undercut American workers where they train the replacement and they get replaced by a foreigner when this program's supposed to be, if there's not enough jobs. We got to look out for American people first. So I think that is something that's going to be really, really significant. And then I think we have a state that we have the lowest per capita debt of all 50 states in the state of Florida. And since I've been governor, we've paid off we've been a state since the 1840s. All the debt the state's accumulated, we've paid off 36% of that just since I've been governor. And I think it's good when you're fiscally strong and responsible. That is not what they've been doing in Washington, D.C. So I want somebody that's going to go up there and push back on the insanity. Everything that you've had to deal with in terms of higher prices and all the things we've seen in the economy, that's driven by federal spending and the Federal Reserve. Those are the culprits for doing it. So you can't sit there and say you want to fight inflation if you're going to jack up spending even more. It doesn't work that way. You've got to be willing to say enough is enough. We need to go a different course. So we definitely want somebody that understands that. We also want somebody that understands the importance of, if it's come to pass where you have a Supreme Court justice nominated, we want justices in the mold of Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, and that's what the senators should demand and ensure that that's the case. And then finally, just have fidelity to the constitutional principles that have made this country great. So we will have, I don't think Senator Rubio is going to leave until he's actually appointed. And I anticipate that to happen, but that will not happen before January 20th. And so, I told people we would do it, in the first half of January, and I think we're probably on course to do that. But clearly, we will have somebody in place ready to go on January 20th. I think it's important. I don't want to see a gap for the state of Florida in terms of there. But we do not have a vacancy right now. Because and I think he's doing the right thing by continuing to serve until he actually is officially appointed. Would I consider? Absolutely not. It's funny, these people write these things like, and anytime they're talking about anything I'm doing, they're just making it up, right? I mean, they'll talk to someone, because you'll see, someone familiar with the governor's thinking. Understand, that means they don't know what the hell they're talking about. that means somebody is saying, well, I know how the governor thinks. He's probably saying this. So they try to do grist for the mill. And, oh, this person's leading, this person's that. It's all made up, and they're just guessing. And look, it isn't that hard to guess, like, you know, of 10 plausible people, like there's some pretty obvious people who would be in that mix, right? But they do it. One of the things I got a kick off was, like, there was a report, the governor has removed himself from consideration for the U.S. Senate. I was never in consideration for that, trust me. We're doing well here, and we're going to continue to do that. And so it was never something that I considered. And I don't know, you know, we've done so much. I think I probably have done more, you know, in the last week than most U.S. senators do, you know, in a term. It's just the reality of being an executive versus being in the legislative branch, and so we want to be there leading and making decisions, and that's what this job is. Yes?
Can you comment on your USPWF board appointee that said women should pursue higher education?
I don't know. What is it again? I'm not familiar with what you're saying.
Your order said that women should be mothers and not pursue higher education.
I'm not familiar with that. I mean, obviously, I think if you look at the state of Florida, we probably have a higher percentage of women enrolled in our state universities than we do men, and that's probably grown under my tenure. But what I don't like is, like, you know, cherry picking somebody saying this and then trying to smear them, because what they don't do is they don't do the opposite. You know, you can have people get appointed who have flagrant left-wing backgrounds, and that's just swept under the rug. You never hear legacy media trying to highlight any of that. So I don't play those games. The proof's going to be in the pudding about what they're willing to do. You know, and the reality is, you know, you have a university up in Northwest Florida in Pensacola, you know, viewed as like, oh, this like conservative panhandle, right? And yet, if you look at some of the stuff they do at that university, it's very much highly politicized. It's stuff that I don't think the people, the panhandle, think is valuable. And we don't want indoctrination. We want education, and we want to focus on the classical mission of a university. There's certain things that you know are important. And look, the fluff and the ideological agenda, if that's what you want, well, then go to Berkeley or go somewhere else, but not Florida. That's just not what we want to put our tax dollars to. So I think you're going to see some changes at University of West Florida. I think it's going to be oriented more towards a traditional mission of education, not indoctrination. I think you're going to see an emphasis on promoting things that are really, really useful for the state and for the country. And that's what these universities should be doing. We need real serious nationwide overhaul of higher education in this country. And I think there's going to be some opportunities for the federal government to do that. But I mean, those of us have been in this, and we've known this, you know, for a long time, but you look since October 7th of 2023, some of the appalling behavior that you've seen at some of these universities with the tacit support of the university hierarchy in places like Columbia University. I mean, it's just been such a disgrace. And so that's not really what I think you want. And I think that you're already seeing, and they'll even write about this in some of these national publications, about high school students from the Northeast more likely to go to the Southeast for college compared to what would have been done even 10 years ago. And I think it's because you're seeing that so many of these universities have just totally run amok, that you got to think about, okay, is that really where the best place to be for us? And so you come down to a place like Florida. Hell, our out-of-state tuition is cheaper than any of those schools by far, not even close. And so you have opportunities to do that. But higher education needs to be reformed nationwide. We've led the way in Florida and have done more than anybody else by a factor of 10. Whether you look at our post-tenure review, where all tenured professors must undergo review every 5 years and can be terminated for poor performance. If you look at being the first state in America to eliminate in our university system DE&I, now DE&I is on the way out almost everywhere because it's been a total failure. If you look at all the things that we've done to promote Western civilization, things like the Hamilton Center at University of Florida, really talking about the building blocks of America and being able to learn that stuff and not have the mumbo jumbo that really has dominated academia for the last couple decades. We've really led the way. I mean, we've got more to do. We've got a lot on the plate, but boy, we didn't just sit idly by. We're really steaming forward. All right, thanks everybody. God bless. We'll see you soon.